Hello and welcome to a lesson on the advanced use of percentages. This lesson follows on from the lesson called A Basic Use of Percentages, but what we do in this lesson is for higher tier GCSE. We'll look at two aspects of percentages. First we look at increasing or decreasing a quantity by a given percentage, and then we look at reverse percentage problems. Now we looked at increasing and decreasing a quantity by a given percentage in the first lesson, but in this lesson we'll use a more sophisticated method to do that. Let's look at how we did it last time. Increase £65 by 14%. And what we did, we started by finding 14% of £65. And to do that, we multiply £65 by 0.14. We use a calculator to do that. 65 multiplied by 0.14 is 9.1, or as money, that's £9.10p. And having found the 14%, to get our increase, we added that to the original £65. So let me write add to the original. So we have £65 plus £9.10p. Well, I've already got the £9.10p in the calculator, so we'll just add on the £65, and that gives us £74.10p. Now let's look at an alternative method of achieving that result. If we're going to add 14% to £65, then we're going to start with 100% and we're going to add 14% on. Well, that will mean we have 114%. So all I need to do to answer this question is find 114% of £65. And we do that by saying £65 multiplied by, and 114% as a decimal is 1.14. If I get the calculator, 65 multiplied by 1.14 is equal to 74.1, which is £74.10p. So we've got the same result. When we multiply by 1.14, the 1 gives us the original £65. 1 times 65 is 65. And it's the 0.14 that gives us the extra, which in this case would be the extra £9.10p. So instead of finding a percentage and then adding it on, we're adding on the percentage we require and then finding what it actually is in monetary terms. Let's move on and look at two more examples. Increase 125 kilograms by 32%. Well, the 125 kilograms is 100% of itself, and we're going to add on another 32%. And that will give us 132%. So all we've got to do is find 132% of 125 kilograms. So that's 125 kilograms multiplied by, and 132% as a decimal is 1.32. So that's 125 multiplied by 1.32. And that is 165 kilograms. Our third and final example of increasing by a percentage, increase 43 meters by 8%. Well, we'll have 100% to start with, the 43 meters, and we're going to add on 8%. And that gives us 108%. So all we need to do is find 108% of 43 meters. So we get that by multiplying 43 meters by 1.08. 43 multiplied by 1.08 is equal to 46.44. So that's 46.44 meters. And now we look at decreasing a quantity by a given percentage. Decrease 84 pounds by 17%. And we'll begin by using the method that we used in the first lesson. And what we did was we first found 17% of 84 pounds. So find 17% of 84 pounds. So that's 84 pounds multiplied by 0.17. .84 multiplied by 0.17 is £14.28. And then, if we want to decrease by 17%, we needed to subtract that from the original £84. So subtract from original. So that gives us £84, take away £14.28. £84, take away £14.28 is equal to £69.72. Right, now for the alternative method, similar to the one we used for increasing by a percentage. We begin with £84, which is 100% of itself. But this time we're going to decrease it by 17%, so we're going to take 17% off. And that means there'll be 83% left. So the question is simply to find 83% of £84. So find 83% of £84. And we do that by £84 multiplied by, as a decimal, 83% is 0.83. So we want £84 multiplied by 0.83. And the answer is £69.72 as before. So again, instead of finding the percentage as a monetary amount and then subtracting, we've subtracted the percentage to get 83% and then found that as a monetary amount. Two more examples of this type. First of all, decrease 120 kilograms by 8%. So we begin with the 120 kilograms, which is 100% of itself, and we're going to subtract 8%, in which case there'll be 92% left. So all we have to do is find 92% of 120 kilograms. And we do that by saying 120 kilograms multiplied by 0.92. 120 kilograms multiplied by 0.92. And that comes to 110.4 kilograms. And the last example of this type, decrease 400 meters by 35%. Well, 400 meters is 100% of itself, and we're going to subtract 35%. So what will be left? 65%. And we just need to find 65% of 400 meters. So that's 400 meters multiplied by 0.65. Multiplied by 0.65 is equal to 260. So in this case it'll be 260 meters. And that concludes the examples on increasing and decreasing a quantity by a given percentage. We'll now move on to look at questions called reverse percentage problems. In these questions, the quantity that you're given is not the original 100%, and the task is to go back and find the quantity that is the original 100%. To get you thinking about it, let me pose the following problem. If your boss gave you a 10% pay rise and then gave you a 10% pay cut, would your pay then be more than before the two changes occurred, less than before the two changes occurred, or would it be the same as it was before the two changes occurred? Have a few seconds to see what you think. Okay, let's work out what the answer is. Let's suppose you were earning £100 a week. And the boss came along and said, I'm going to give you a pay rise of 10%. Well, 10% of £100 is £10. So you're going to get an extra £10 a week. Which means your pay will now be £110 per week. But then the boss comes along and says, I'm going to give you a 10% pay cut. Well, 10% of £110 is £11. If we divide it by 10, you can see it's £11 exactly. So we're going to subtract £11. So you have the 110 minus £11. And so you end up with £99 a week. So in actual fact, the answer is you end up with less than before the two changes occurred. And we've got to be careful with percentages because you always have to be aware of what represents 100%. And in this case, 100% was £100 in the first calculation, but in the second calculation, 100% was £110. And that's why you ended up losing more than you gained. Right, now let's look at 4 questions that uses this concept. In a sale with 25% off, a coat is priced at £48. What was the original price before the sale? Now, the best way to tackle these problems is to think what the shopkeeper has done. The shopkeeper had the original price. and decided to give you 25% off. Now think about what we did in the first part of the lesson. If you want to take 25% off, that leaves 75%. So what he did was he multiplied by 0.75 to find the new price. He wanted to take 25% off, so he multiplied the original by 0.75. And that came to £48. That was the sale price. Now what we need to do is work our way back. Well, if we started with the original and multiplied by 0.75 to get £48, to go back the other way, we need to divide by 0.75. So £48 divided by 0.75 will get us back to the original. Let's see what that is. £48 divided by 0.75 is equal to, use the calculator, 48 divided by 0.75 is equal to 64 pounds. Now we can check this. Take 25% off £64. Well, 50% would be £32, so 25% would be £16. And if we take £16 away from £64, we get 48. So it's correct. But most students in a GCSE exam that tackle these questions get them wrong. Because what they're tempted to do is just find 25% of £48 and add it on. Now 25% of £48 will be £12, and if you added it on you'd get 60. But now try taking 25% off 60. Well, 25% of 60 is £15, and if you took that off 60 you get £45, not 48. So the mistake that many students make is they base the percentage on £48, but the £48 does not represent 100% in this kind of question. Let's do some more examples and hopefully then it'll sink in for you. After losing 15% of his weight on a diet, a man weighs 68 kilograms. What was his original weight? Well, let's start with his original. Now he's lost 15%, so how do we calculate what his weight is after he's lost the 15%? Well, if we take off 15%, there'll be 85% left. So he will be 85% of his original, which means we just multiply by 0.85. And that apparently comes to 68 kilograms. So to get back to his original weight, we have to do the opposite. Instead of multiplying by 0.85, we need to divide by 0.85. So if we start with our 68 kilograms and divide by 0.85, we will be back to his original weight. So let's do that. 68 kilograms divided by 0.85 is equal to 80 kilograms. Let's do a check. Let's take 15% of 80 kilograms away. 10% of 80 kilograms is 8 kilograms, so 5% would be 4 kilograms, which means 15%, 10% add 5% would be 8 plus 4 is 12 kilograms. And if I take 12 kilograms away from 80 kilograms, sure enough, we end up with 68 kilograms. Third example, this time we're adding on VAT. We're not making a reduction, we're making an increase. A television is priced at £288 inclusive of 20% VAT. So 20% VAT is being added on. What is the price exclusive of VAT? That's what's the price before the VAT was added on. So let's call that the ex-VAT price. The ex-VAT price multiplied by what? Well, 20% was added on, so it was multiplied by 1.20. And that apparently gave £288. Now, to get back to the ex-VAT price, we need to do the opposite of multiply by 1.20, which is divide by 1.20. So it's 288 divided by 1.20 would be equal to the ex-VAT price. So let's see what it comes to. 288 divided by 1.20, 288 divided by 1.20 is equal to £240. So this television was £240 before the VAT was added and £288 after it was added. Let's check, see if it's right. What happens when we add 20% to 240? Well, 10% is £24, so 20% will be £48. And if I add £48 to 240, we would get £288. So it's always a good idea to check when you finish to see if, when you make the increase or decrease required, you get to the answer given in the question. And now the last example. After a 5% pay rise, John has an hourly rate of pay of £6.72. What was his previous hourly rate of pay? Well, if we start with his previous rate, what was done to it? It had 5% added, so it was multiplied by 1.05. And that gave him £6.72 as an hourly rate. So to find the previous rate, we do the opposite to multiply by 1.05. We divide by 1.05. And that will give us his previous rate. Let's see what that comes to. 6.72 divided by 1.05 is equal to 6.4, which in money would be £6.40. Right, let's check this one as well. He gets a 5% pay rise on his previous rate. Well, 10% of £6.40 would be 0.64 of a pound or 64 pence. So 5% would be 32 pence. And what do we get if we add 32 pence to £6.40? Sure enough, we get the £6.72. So we can be confident our answer is correct. Well, that concludes this lesson on advanced use of percentages, and you've got now the techniques needed for higher tier GCSE. You'll now find an exercise on both parts of the lesson.